Hello everyone, welcome back to the Smite Comprehensive Guide to Horus. In this particular episode, this is Solo Lane. Let me adjust my audio here, we'll put it at 20. Where Solo Lane Horus, of course. And this is a bit of an interesting match because right away you'll notice they have two assassins, which means one of these two assassins is most likely going to be in the solo lane. Now I guess incorrectly at this point. My guess is Ravan, because between the two of them, Ravan is a little better in the solo lane. His passive gives him a health shield every time he hits something 8 times, whether it be through ability or auto attack, which makes him a little better at boxing, whereas Nemesis has a dash, making her a little bit faster in the jungle when she needs to be. Ravan cannot match her speed, she cannot match his health shield, so I was assuming, right at this point, that my laning opponent would be Ravan. Turns out it's Nemesis, which doesn't really affect my initial purchases, as you'll see, but it does cause me to make a mistake. Now, I double-checked with my team where they wanted me to drop them off. They wanted me to drop them off at the correct location, which is the Harpies here. And so I throw out my ability here, and then Nuwa kind of misses her gem there. Right? So we're actually going to turn this up slightly more, because I boosted the volume of my mic here. So we clear that relatively effectively. By the way, this is also the reason why you always want one more health potion than mana potion. So I waltz on over to the lane. I beat out Nemesis technically. We technically arrived there at the same time. She pokes me. I hit her minions. I go on ahead and she gives me this, right? She gives me this. She should know this. Give me this, right? Pop. She pulls minion aggro, which is fine. And then she gives me this free hit on both her and the front line here. And then I get to very much prevail. Now, you'll notice I'm going for Golden Blade. I am going for Golden Blade because I was expecting an assassin, so I knew that they would be able to probably wave clear better than me. I was actually, again, specifically expecting Ravan, who can out-clear Horus not too difficultly. If he doesn't get hit by the dash that I have, right? And then I go for some poke here. I almost kill her. I don't quite make it, unfortunately. But I am now, ahead, and I level cleave up to level 2 here. You can see that right there. And that goes down. And now I have this wonderful advantage. I'm going to go around and take out this. Obviously, she's going to deal with that. Right? I see Serket doing some amazing work. Now, this gives me a lot of encouragement, right? Because, quite frankly, this means that Ravan is now on the back foot, so to speak, and he's going to be less of a threat if he shows up, right? I force her out again, which is huge, because this means I get the Scorpion buff there, the cooldown buff, which is great for me, right? I'm clearly building the 2-ability start here, because I know for a fact that Nemesis's big boxing potential comes from her shield and being able to heal off of the enemy's hits. Both of my abilities, my first 2 abilities, kill that shield because it's hard crowd control. So even if she builds that, she's not likely to offer a whole bunch of resistance there. So I'm trying to zone her out a little bit. I decide to be nice and not completely force her out. That's good strategy, but very rude if you didn't know. So I go on ahead and clear these, we're fine. I decide to make a bit of a bold move here, right? I'm going to stick around, I'm going to stay up here, and I'm going to clear this wave a little bit ahead of time. I'm taking a bit of a risk because I don't know where Ravan is, and even though he is behind a little bit, he's not so far behind that I would necessarily want to get ganked by him, right? She has a great move there, she plays that very well, incidentally. I get my hit there, and then I'm going to go back and get this again because I basically have the opportunity to. There's Ravan. Now, I back up again partially. You can actually see where I pay attention more to the map. I get hit here, and she's a little aggressive, which puts me onto the map right away. I see Serket coming over here, so likely Ravan's coming over here as well, right? So I back up, right? I could have pressed that a little harder, but I went back. I actually went back slightly too late. Ravan just stayed around for the huge minion wave. He could have pressured me more there, but I was a little late on that. But I started going back partially because I saw Serket in the jungle, and usually junglers kind of go about the same pattern. There's, at this point in the season, junglers have defined patterns. Serket was coming over. Ravan was likely going to come over as well. I thought I had a little bit more time, and this is the reason why my backing up was a little bit late. I thought I had a bit more time because he is behind Serket, so I figured he would also be behind a little bit time-wise there as well. He would have to catch up with a little bit of farm, after all. he was actually a little early to the scene, so I lucked out that he decided to go for the wave. He wouldn't have killed me. The two of them would not have killed me, but they could have applied a lot of pressure and caused me to at least lose some of my lead there. I throw away my whirlwind. I should have gone for the bastion with that. I don't know what I was thinking there. Clear this. Now I'm taking a risk by doing this because obviously I'm running fairly low on health at this point, and we're both level 5, but I've obviously chosen to skip my ult, but she probably hasn't, and I'm aware of this, and I decide I'm going to go in here and I'm going to clear this out. I'm not expecting her to do any of that. Now, if I'd hit my ability, I would have survived, but this is a huge setback, right? I had a really nice lead. Now she's level 6. This is a bit concerning, right? I whiffed and died. Basically, that is straight up the problem there. But I do have Golden Blade now, which is going to at least help me maintain pretty good wave clear, right? She clears the skull, that's fine. The totem, I barely am too late for that, which is fine. I have health potions to compensate for the fact that I no longer have my mana buff. Did I say health potions? I don't have mana potions. And I have wards because obviously Ravon is interested in coming over here and he's not quite as far behind as I was originally anticipating at this point. Go ahead and do some poke on this now that I have my ward. She's not pressing me, mostly because her abilities really need to be conserved for wave clear. I'm looking to force her out, right? I do the dash. She activates her shield because obviously I don't have my abilities up. She's been keeping track of my cooldowns, which is very smart. And then I've just cleared her wave, so now I'm going to poke her out a little bit. I'm not anticipating much more than that, right? I just want the poke. And we're back to where we were before, which is a huge relief for me. I was really concerned that she would roll that first kill into a snowball, that she would be able to maintain or equal my pressure. She did not. Free healing for her from the Nuwa ult, but that's fine. It's not going to make a big difference. I don't think she was expecting me to build Golden Blade, to be honest. This is a huge reason why I'm able to keep up with her pressure, despite the fact that she got that kill earlier, is because I can wave clear. I can out-clear her, basically, which is not something she wants. I don't know why I dashed there, but I also don't know why I didn't take the shot there. That was weird. The whole thing was weird. But yeah, she normally would be able to compete with me for wave clear, and she would be able to equal my pressure, but with Golden Blade, I out-clear her, and she cannot keep up with that, essentially. That's why she was so willing to risk it all on that earlier kill, and why that early kill was so concerning for me, is because I was afraid she was going to be able to match me blow for blow as a result of that, but my wave clear is better than hers with Golden Blade, which is another reason, and I want to point this out, and this is part of the reason why I recorded this match. That's why Golden Blade is really great on a solo lane Horus. It gives him incredible wave clear, and if I didn't have it, I would be having a much harder time dealing with Nemesis right now, because she is better at boxing due to her passive, due to her shield. She'd be able to use that once I used my abilities, or she could just hold the shield and basically nullify one of my two abilities. She could outbox me if it was not for my incredible wave clear due to Golden Blade. Again, this is working out because I was expecting an assassin. I just wasn't expecting her specifically. But this is generally going to apply for any god that has basically better baseline wave clear than Horus, which is most of them, to be honest. Now, I see the ping of, Ares right here. I believe actually it was Ravon first, right? Because, yep, there's Ravon. There he is, so I back off. And then I'm surprised. This surprises me. I'm not surprised to see Ravon here. I am surprised to see Ares here. Alright, that doesn't make much sense. Nemesis and I have been trading waves. She's been losing a little bit of gold because some of my minions have been getting under her tower, so she's been losing a little bit of gold. But not so much where I would expect Ares to come by and try for a gank, right? I'm cautiously moving forward here because I'm not sure how far away they are. They might have just moved just inside the jungle, so I'm also keeping my abilities. You'll see where I keep most of my abilities, specifically my dash, which is a great escape for me at this point, and I'm keeping that available. I see Ravon in mid. I see Ares in mid, so I am fine to approach now at this point, right? You can see them fighting in mid there. I'm looking to take this bastion. I whiff again. Just finish this up. She's pretty low on health, so I knew she wasn't going to press me at that point. I knew she wasn't going to really try to seriously counterattack. I was expecting some poke with her dual blades there, but she did not go for that. I go for the bastion again, and then at this particular point, I'm backing off for the buff. She's coming back fresh. I don't want to box her under bastion, when she's fresh back from the fountain, right? So I grab this. Delightful. I almost forgot to pick it up. And then I'm looking to see what next I want to do, because Ravon is dead, so I know he's not going to be over here for a little bit. She decides to press me, which I find very interesting, and this is very much due to the fact that she has built her protections up. She's got a protection item at this point, which is why she decides that. I do put up a really great showing. I also hit her with the glyph there, as you can see, but she's low on health. She's trying to apply the pressure as best she can. I'm just going to go on ahead and clear the wave as best I can, do an okay job of it. And she's going to back off. I actually half expected her to dive me there, to be honest. So I'm going to be grabbing up one of the shields. I'm not sure which one I want at this point. I'm kind of leaning towards Berserker's shield, but I'm not fully convinced that would be the correct move. We are talking about a higher damage composition. We have an assassin instead of a warrior, so I am kind of wondering if I want to go heavier on the protections in the late game than I normally would, but I still haven't decided yet. So I go on ahead and steal that, right, because she, of course, lost too much life in the last boxing match when she forced me out of lane, so now I need to force her out of lane, which is what the point there was. I succeed, she's backing, and now I am pretty much free to do whatever I want, right? So what I'm going to do is, what I intend to do at least, is clear this wave, get to level 11, and then grab my ult, is my intention here. Boom. And then I misclick and grab my heal. My intention at this point was to grab my ult so that way I could, you know, waltz over and help out in mid lane if I needed to. I goofed it. I accidentally hit the wrong key. I was going to clear the bastion and ult into mid, but I clearly can't do that anymore. Clear the tower instead. So that way when I do hit level 12, I am completely free and I don't have to really worry about it, because even if she takes my left tower, that just makes us evens. So off I go. Right now at this point, I'm desperately trying to get to level 12. I'm going to clear this out. I'm looking at my blue buff at this point. Grab that. Lovely. And then I pop over to the blue buff, and what I'm going to be doing is originally going to the blue buff. Now, you can actually see where I changed my mind here, right? I'm originally moving towards my blue buff. I put down my ward. Serket just kills Hera here, and there's Ares here. Now, the Ares is here. I don't see Nemesis. There's Ravon. I'm moving in because the Nemesis doesn't... She's no longer here, right? She's right here. She clears this wave. I'm gone, right? I clear this. She's still there. She's dealing with that, right? Her wave is coming up at this point, and then she disappears off the face of the earth. I don't know where she's gone, so when I initially was going to go for the blue buff, I decided to change to mid lane because I suspect she's moving to mid. So I go on ahead and move to mid. I don't have my ult, which is what I was trying to wait for. This is where I would have really liked to have had it, but I do the best I can with my heal. Here, I go on ahead and pin down the Ares here for our Ares to lock down and grab. Boom, grab that kill, which is great because I needed it. Nemesis is back and left, so I was wrong. What she was probably doing was her mana buff. She probably looped around the back, right? Now at this particular point, I decide I'm going to teleport in there, grab my Gladiator's Shield. I decide on Gladiator's Shield because that's what I could afford at the time, partially. Secondarily, I am still thinking in the back of my mind that this is a high aggro composition, and I might want that extra protections, especially since Nemesis can steal them, so I go Glad Shield, right? But at this point, I'm also making a mental note that at the end of the game, I'll be selling Golden Blade. So if this match goes south, I'm going to be up a creek, because selling an item always returns less gold, so I would then be behind in gold if I sell that, which I am looking to do at some point in the future, obviously, at this point, right? So I'm going to go on ahead and box her because I really shouldn't be, to be honest. I don't know where Ravon is, and this is a bit of a risk here. But I have my protections, and I know I can at least take her because I have, again, that advantage over her shield. She misplays it as well. I'm actually going to go back because she actually misplays this, and I want to talk about that. So she ults me, which is fine, right? And then she uses her abilities, which is also fine. But then she busts out her shield right beforehand. See, you can actually see the shield trigger, and I want you to see this because it's very important. That purple lightning and that squinchy noise you heard, that is her shield activating and reflecting the damage of my ability, but then immediately the shield disappears because I've just hit her with hard CC. She throws her shield away at the worst possible time. This is in fact why she originally wanted to fight me. She had that shield up, so she was okay to fight me. She had her ult, she had her reflection shield. However, when she throws it away right here, because she wasn't patient enough for me to use my first ability, she then immediately becomes disinterested in fighting, and you'll see her run away immediately as soon as she can, right? She breaks off and runs, And I'm just going to chase her down at this point because I know that right now I have a huge advantage, right? Yeah, Ravon might be coming in, but I've now, you know, got her on the ropes. And Ravon is a level down from me, so I'm not too concerned. But that is why initially she wanted to fight me, and then she turns around and leaves. She threw away her reflection shield, which is a hugely important ability for her in boxing matches, especially against Horus. Okay, she basically just barely timed it wrong. She almost correctly guessed when I would be using it. She jumped the gun by 2 seconds, maybe, right? Now, meanwhile, my team is slapping people down in mid lane. I'm going to be maintaining pressure on this lane because obviously they don't need me in mid right now, right? They've just cleared out the enemy team. The Izanami is ganking mid, which, as far as I can see, is fine. Ares does die, but it's 2v1 right there. The Izanami, you can see, is backing. I'm literally just looking at the map while I'm doing this tower. They kill Izanami, but I anticipate at this point you can actually see my thought process here, right? At approximately this point, I am assuming that somebody's on their way. It's been 10-15 seconds. I'm like, alright, I need to get out of here because I don't have that much mana left. Sure, I've got enough health, but my mana is really low, so I want to get out of here, right? So I'm going to steal her mana buff. Great. Take this. Lovely. And then I want to take the cooldown buff here, right? While I'm in the area. Maybe I take the totem, maybe I don't. She's right there, so I'm already like, I'm not going to take that totem, right? Because she's right now fresh from the fight. She's got items. I'm going to go under the tower because I want to defend against this incoming wave here. I'm going to give her the totem. Just clear this wave while she's doing that. Lovely time. Go up, finish them off with an auto attack or two. Because I know she doesn't have any hard CC. She's got a slow, and my wave was on the way, so I knew even if she slowed me, I'd be fine. So that's why I was okay going up there and clearing that. Now, I'm grabbing Horrific Emblem very specifically because Hera does not have an escape, so that'll help me lock her down. Nemesis's auto attacks will be slowed, which is huge. Ravon's auto attacks will be slowed, which is kind of important for his passive. And Izanami's auto attacks will be slowed, which is important for surviving her. So Horrific Emblem is an incredibly effective relic on everyone on the enemy team except Ares. And even then, it'll slow down Ares because Ares also doesn't have an escape, so that also works on him too. Now, I rotate over here. Let me go back a little bit because I was talking too much about Horrific Emblem. Now, I see her leave, right? I know for a fact her mana buff isn't there because I took that. So I am assuming here that she is going to mid lane. So I'm on my way to go do something about that because obviously I have my ult finally, having not misclicked. And there she is, right? And this is really the only thing I've been waiting for because right now the really strong person on the enemy team is the Nemesis. So if anybody is going to have the potential to turn this around for them, it's going to be her. So we really got to slap her down. We do so. Great awareness on the Ares there. He's right on top of that. Great play by the Ares there. Nuwa did a great job dodging death. And then we're going to obviously pop over here and see if Charybdis needs help. We're grabbing the Gold Fury because Ares called it. I actually originally go around this way. Right, you can see where I'm deviating in the path a little bit here because I know Izanami is right here, right? She appeared for the last wave, she's appeared for this one, and we clear this, and then Izanami is looking to back, but then she stops, so I'm wondering if she's going to attack Charybdis or something, so I go around, but Charybdis isn't in danger, so I basically assume Izanami actually was intending to back, which is the logical conclusion here. She looked like she was backing, then she moved backwards for whatever reason. It was the moving backwards for no reason that confused me. You don't normally want to move backwards while you're in the middle of backing, but anyways. So, I don't know what Ares and I are thinking here, honestly. We take the Gold Fury, we really should be backing. Ares is half dead. I'm great. I'm in great condition. Ares is half dead, we shouldn't be here. I call retreat because I realize this, right? Ares goes in anyways. No idea what got into his head, but I'm going to now try to save him because we are ahead and I'm fine, right? I have a heal, I've got crowd control. He goes back in after he gets out, because he was fine here, right? Look. I get him out. He is fine. He's out, he turns around and comes back in. No idea what he wants out of this. But this is a hugely risky move. We don't really need this risky move. This is very risky for us. This could work out, sure, because we're very ahead of the enemy team, but this could also go very south, right? I ult just to not be pulled in. Boom. I bring Ares with me because he was apparently feeling extremely spicy. We wind up getting Hera, who somehow didn't notice I was ulting. And then at this particular point, that's a lot of their damage. I'm now concerned about the Izanami. I want to get away from her. They're chasing down the Ares. At this point, there's 4 of them there. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do, right? I gotta leave. I apologize to him, but there was literally absolutely nothing I was going to be able to do out of that. Nuwa died in the background while that was all going down, which is unfortunate. Here's Nemesis trying to ult me, which is a good play, but unfortunately, again, she doesn't have the crowd control to really lock me down. It's just a slow, I fly to my minions, and I'm out of here. Now, I'm only really backing here rather than defending the tower because I have my teleport up, so I know I can immediately come back. I grab Shogun's Kusari because I'm still not quite sure how dedicated to the auto attack I want to be, but Shogun's Kusari never hurts either build, so I build it as a safe pick, right? Shogun's Kusari is always nice on Horus if you have Golden Blade. Whether you stick with the auto attacks or not, Shogun's Kusari is always a safe bet. Right? Now, I'm leaving right lane to go to mid. Tribus follows me mostly because she probably doesn't want to be alone in the lane at that point. At this point, we really should be teaming up, and she's grouping up, and she's respecting that, right? This is actually the 100% correct call by the Tribus. She, at this point, shouldn't want to be alone, and does not stay alone, right? So we find this Ares wandering the jungle for some reason. Take him out really quick. Meanwhile, in the background, somewhere in the jungle, Serket wipes out Ravan. I'm zoning out the Hera here. That is exclusively what I'm doing. Ares was tanking the tower, so he wasn't going to be zoning, so it was up to me to zone, right? I just didn't want her summoning Argus and ruining Ares' day. We start working on this, but then I realize Izanami is absolutely going to kill people, so I'm just going to attack her. I'm surprised to see the Serket come in. See, you can actually see the Serket come in. I actually fully expected to die for this. Because you can see here, right, we kill Hera. She busts out the Argus that I was afraid of, interrupting Ares' tanking. And then we start attacking this. Izanami slaps me, and now I'm backing off because I was not aware, and I'm checking the corner right now when I turn around and back off. I'm checking her level. She's level 15, I'm level 15, which is why she's slapping me so hard. I did not expect that, right? You can see Serket coming around here. So I'm like, alright, I'm going to die for the cause because this Izanami is scary for Ares. Turns out Serket had Blink and kills the Izanami outright. I wasn't expecting her to have Blink. I was expecting to stall the Izanami and I die, and then Serket picks it up afterwards, right? Nemesis, I don't know what Nemesis was doing. Nemesis really should have been on that defense. I have no idea what she was doing in the jungle there. Whatever she was doing, it was not worth it. Considering we caught her out and she died, right? We really should be backing at this point, by the way, because the 2 tanks are both half dead, and the enemy team, half the enemy team is respawned. They have Ares, who is a scary tank killer, potentially, if built correctly. We've got Hera with probably not Argus, but she still can slap. And we've got Ravan. So we really should have been backing up earlier, and you're going to see where I'm going to try to save Tribus, and I fail. Now Nuwa's stuck, right? We all just get absolutely wiped. And that is because we overstayed. We frankly did overstay. Once we took that tower, the tower was fine, right? Because it's just a tower. We really should have backed like the Serket did after that tower. We were no way going to take that Phoenix. Just not going to happen, right? So I'm trying to decide how dedicated I want to be to the auto attack, and I decide I'm going to go on ahead and go for the Berserker's Shield at this particular point. And my logic here is, at this point, essentially, look, Ares doesn't have an escape, Hera doesn't have an escape. I can build a nice Toxic Blade, get some attack speed reduction on the enemy with that as my last item, and then sell a Glad Shield for some other form of physical protections. Maybe, I'm thinking Midgardian Mail at this particular point in time. That's what I've got in my head. Sell Glad Shield, go for Midgard, right? So I'm going to go ahead and ward that, right? And then I'm going to clear my blue buff, because I'm expecting them to try to press down left, right? The reason why I'm expecting this is because, lo and behold, here's Ravan, here's Ares, right? Ares backs, of course, but here he is in this lane, so I am expecting them to keep pushing this forward. I am expecting at least Ravan, possibly Nemesis, to show up and push that down. So I'm going to clear my blue buff while waiting to see what happens, because either way, I still want the blue buff. Grab this. I see Hera in mid. Nuwa's going for that. She shouldn't need too much help with that. She is a higher level. She's not a higher level than Hera at this point, actually. But she has been dominating Hera in the mid lane. You can see where Hera almost dies. So I'm okay with that, right? I see somebody else in mid lane. I think it was Ares. And off we go. Right? Nuwa calls out she got Hera's Aegis, so I'm going to ult in, because I'm expecting them to keep pressure on the Nuwa. I'm wrong. Completely. Right? You can actually see where... let me go back a bit here. So, Nuwa ambushes Hera, almost kills her. And then you see with her ult, here's Ares right here, so I was expecting maintained pressure, because here's, I believe it was Nemesis, right? When I play, I don't necessarily see individual faces all the time. It's Ravon, pardon me. There's Nemesis up there. You see Ravon moving in, so with Ravon moving in and the Ares already here, I am expecting them to apply pressure to Nuwa. So I ult in on this assumption, and I happen to be wrong. They were not looking to pressure at all. They were just looking to cover the Hera's retreat. That's all they were looking to do, which is fine. It was the correct move there, right? But I was anticipating a Nuwa attack, so I ulted in and wound up wasting my ult. Now they're going to attack me, which is fine. Nemesis correctly beelines for the Nuwa. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop this. Right, he ults. I'm just going to accept my fate at this point. Nemesis ults me for some reason, despite the fact that she's almost dead at this point. The Ares' chains do save her, which is great. But at this point, our Ares has just come in, and I want to dedicate to this. Again, I'm possibly going to die here, but it was a great ult. Fewer of them had beads up than I was expecting. Absolutely fantastic. We have a huge opportunity here. Take out Hera because we don't want Argus being involved. No one wants Argus involved. She dies, and then we have the whole fiasco going on in right. Unfortunately, Serket dies, which is a problem because she was our really big winner. That was a great blink by Ravon, right? He absolutely would have died there if he hadn't blinked there. And then we're going to go for this tower, which we can do. It's just Ravon. Even if we have lost Serket, the Tribdis is our real tower killer here. She is the hunter. This is fine. And boom, there we are, right? Now they've respawned to some extent. Again, this is a bit risky. It is doable. There is 4 versus 1, even if I'm almost dead and the Ares is not full health either. We do have a really good shot at this, right? So we force the Ares out. I die for no reason because I was just blindly charging at the Ares because I wanted to finish that up. My thought process there was if I could kill the Ares, then my allies have a really great opportunity to grab that. And you can see where I totally change around my build here. I decide I'm going to go for the Stone of Binding at this point. You can see where I was going to go for. You can actually see where my thought process changed right away, right? You can see where I build up the Berserker Shield, and then I realize I don't have Toxic Blade here, so I need to go and get the Toxic Blade. Here's Toxic Blade, and then I decide, you know what? Stone of Binding. Because we're fairly ahead. So Stone of Binding is going to be a great method of keeping their protections down. At this point, I'm back on the fence on whether or not I want to go full auto attacks, but at this point, we're far enough ahead where that's not hugely important, and I can afford to sell some items because we are ahead. Again, selling items is only really a problem if you're behind. So, at this particular point, our team is dedicated way too hard to this Phoenix. They really should be bailing out of here. At this particular point, I'm going to be teleporting as close as I can. Unfortunately, that's just this Sentry Ward I placed earlier. Buy a new one. I really should have replaced that one since it was fading. I forget to do this in my haste to rejoin the fight, try to save people. I should have dropped that ward there. Now at this point, I'm just looking to save the Serket. I call attack. I shouldn't have. She kills the Izanami, so it works out, but I shouldn't have called the attack. Right? She's looking to get some kills over here. Hera sees me. Ravon picks up on me. We've got everyone here. I'm just looking to get out of here somewhat alive. Right, boom, I'm out. We're out. We retreat. Right, it was a terrible attack call. I never should have called that. That was absolute nonsense. The Serket was there with me, though, for that. She was down for it. Just 2v3 was under Phoenix was not going to work. It just was not, so I got out of there. It's another great thing about Horus is he can usually get out of sticky situations he gets himself into. She wants to clear the jungle. Now, I originally was only going to accompany her for the sake of keeping her alive. Turns out we wind up killing Ravon here, and then she dies, and now I've just got to get out of here, and I'm looking to fly to the Tribdis. Now I'm looking to get the Tribdis something, anything, right? Set up the Nuwa here, Nemesis as much as I can, get chained by Ares. Not sure where we're going with this. I grabbed the damage buff just because no one else is picking it up. Should have left it for the Tribdis, but here we are. And at this particular point, now, my problem here is I was not expecting quite this much, right? We have Nemesis and Ares here. Nemesis is almost dead, right? Ares is almost dead. Clearly there's Argus here, right? Obviously Hera's around. I go for this, and then the Argus and the Ares are here, right? But the Izanami was what I wasn't expecting. I knew Ares was there. I knew Hera was there. I wanted to set up for the Charybdis. the Izanami slapped me down so fast on that idea. So, that was justice. I should have at least accounted for the possibility. I did not. That is a personal mistake on my part. I did not consider, hey, maybe Izanami is here. Boom, I get killed, right? You got to think about these things. Now, at this particular point, I am going for an experiment a little bit here. The other stone there, the one that gives you true damage on your auto attacks, that does proc off of your whirlwind, so I want to try to take advantage of that. I'm experimenting here primarily because we are ahead. I'm pretty confident we've got this in the bag at this point. They're pressing down the mid-Phoenix, which I'm going to, finally change the camera to look at. They kill Nemesis. We're looking at, that great push there. We've got what I think is a ward in mid. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know why I can't teleport to it. I believe it's actually a full ward, and for some reason I couldn't teleport to it. But here we are. And I call it the Gold Fury mostly because we have nothing else to do. Properly, we should have gone for the Fire Giant. The only reason I called for the Gold Fury is because Charybdis was already in right. And if I'd called Fire Giant, it would have taken her too long to go left. So the Gold Fury was what we could guaranteed get at this particular point in time. So that's why I called that, right? We never would have made it to the Fire Giant in time, and I didn't really feel like getting ambushed to the Fire Giant and possibly losing some of our really great lead at this point. Ares calls for an attack on Fire Giant. I move to do this. I move to heal off of the Circuit. We don't. He goes in on 2 of the enemy team for some unholy reason. And at this particular point, I find Ravon, and I'm trying to set him up for Circuit. I'm just trying to stall him out for Circuit because she's obviously been hard carrying the team. She slaps him down, which is great. It is exactly what I wanted. I'm going to ult in, try to help out Ares here. Boom. Go ahead and single out the Hero really quick right here because, again, if we can take her out, there goes Argus, right? So we're trying to get rid of her. Trying to do my best. I'm trying not to die to Ares in the background as well. Here's Hera again. She's activated her shield, but Nuwa picks her up. That's great. And now we just have to deal with this Nemesis of Doom, right? And she's trying very hard to kill Ares. Save the Ares really quick. Now all that's left is Izanami, which as long as we can keep her out of the picture, we're fine, right? Ares goes for that. I go on ahead and support that. I heal him. I pop out a Whirlwind really quick. And we take the Titan. Now, obviously, I made some mistakes here, primarily in my decision-making, and I must confess, I probably should have gone a little bit harder into the auto-attack build, considering their team comp, but quite frankly, Horus is flexible enough where you can build a lot of items on him and be very effective, as this demonstrates. The main issue here was my lack of expectation that the Nemesis would aggress on me at level 5. Let me look at the items here. That was my primary concern here. Now, the Nemesis does do something interesting with her build. She does also build Golden Blade, which, considering she was behind for a majority of it, this probably wasn't the best move. What she probably should have done was gone for the Serrated Edge for penetration, and then blast through my defenses. Really bank on the boxing potential, because once I got Golden Blade, which again I don't think she was expecting, once I got Golden Blade, I was going to absolutely blow her out of the water in terms of wave clear, right? So once she saw me with the katana, which if she'd been checking my items she would have seen, she really probably should have switched over to, in my opinion, again, Serrated Edge, and use that to get some lifesteal. There was penetration there. Really bank on that auto-attacking. Use her ult and her passive to reduce my protections even more, and really go to town on me with reduced protections, where I have reduced protections, and really triumph over me in that 1v1 scenario. Again, once I use my first 2 abilities, her reflection shield is a fantastic weapon to use against me. Unfortunately, she went for Golden Blade, and you can see in the early stages of this match where she barely used that, to the point where I didn't mention it at all because it was not having any kind of impact on our lane in the laning phase. It had 0 impact. Okay, she was never close enough to the minions, except under her tower, that made a difference, right? And that's why it's really important for you to be able to build something that no matter how it goes, you're always going to be able to use. See, the reason why a lot of people build Golden Blade second item on a solo lane Horus is because whether or not you win or lose that first fight, which is, again, another reason, the third reason why I recorded and uploaded this particular match, or why I uploaded it, I lost that first match because I whiffed my ability. But despite that loss, and despite falling a little behind at that particular point, because I had Golden Blade, I was able to make a recovery. Even if I'd won that match, that would have just solidified my lead more. At the end of the day, Golden Blade is a great second item on Horus in most circumstances due to the fact that it is purely about increasing his wave clear to something, to some level, the enemy can't compete with, and most solo laners aren't going to be able to compete with that level of wave clear, and that's why Golden Blade is great on Horus. Nemesis does not have this. She does not have any kind of ranged auto-attack ability like Horus does. Horus throws that whirlwind down the lane and wipes out most of the wave's HP. Nemesis has nothing to match that. She just has regular auto-attacks, so she needs to be standing right there. And again, she doesn't have any hard CC to keep the enemy god busy while she's busting out some other ability. Horus has two forms of crowd control that he can bust out in order to keep the enemy off of him while he wave clears. Again, it takes only one whirlwind once you get Golden Blade to wipe out most of the wave, right? You could see that throughout the match. So this was a waste for her. She, again, really should have banked on that 1v1 because that was where she was going to win it, if at all. Nemesis has decent wave clear, but it's not to the level of Golden Blade Horus, right? She also, again, very oddly, goes for Gladiator's Shield. Now, this by itself isn't necessarily a huge deal, and in fact, it tends to be fairly effective on Nemesis. She does steal protections away, which can boost the amount of damage that you're bringing with Glad Shield. However, for that early game, again, we're talking about building Golden Blade. Quite frankly, I think in this particular circumstance, again, if she had banked on the 1v1s like she probably should have, this probably should have been Berserker's Shield. She would have gotten damage mitigation out of that, right, which would have helped her survive me, especially given that I do have that protection reduction, so the damage mitigation would really help her out once I hit her with that protection reduction, right? That damage mitigation probably would save her life in several instances. So that really primarily is what we're talking about here in terms of really odd decisions on her build. Now, she also builds Shogun Kusari. We actually have the same build for the first 4 items, right? Which is kind of ironic. But the Shogun's Kusari is fine. That totally makes sense. But her second and third items really don't make sense in the context of the matchup and where she was at when she finished those items, right? The Ravon's build is very standard. My only complaint about the Ravon's build is that Soul Eater was 4th. Soul Eater really should have been 3rd. That early in the game, you really don't need a third item Brawlers, right? Part of the reason you want Brawlers is for the anti-heal. Yes, I know it has other effects at this point. That's nice and all. It does give you that... Look, when Brawler's Beatstick ability triggers, it leaves behind a little field, kind of like a miniature war flag that boosts power. As a third item with just Jotun's Wrath, you're really not getting that much power out of it, and again, you really don't need that much anti-heal that early on either. So this, other than just the order here of Soul Eater being 4th and Brawler's Beatstick being 3rd, I would switch those two, but that's really the only negative thing I can say about the Ravon. I have a sneaking suspicion that this is just Serket being a really great player, and the Ravon, while good, he did fair enough, right? But the Ravon clearly isn't at the level of skill that the Serket is here, right? This was just a difference in experience. Whether or not this was a crazy Azteca 96 was new to Ravon, or hadn't played the game in a while and was coming back to the game after a while, I don't know. But I would have to say that the Ravon did well enough, right? No particularly glaring mistakes that I saw, but again, I wasn't there from all of that. But build-wise, his build is fairly standard. The Serket, and the reason why I say probably the Serket is extremely good is because she really banked on a high-risk build here, right? I talk about this quite often. A lot of junglers don't build stacks because it's really slow to build these. unless you're really good at getting kills. Now, part of this is because Serket is really good at boxing. Really good. But she also built Rage right afterwards, so she was really confident. Now, the Rage might have been a response to a really strong early game showing. She got, like, what, 2 or 3 kills by 5 minutes? Huge early game there. So maybe the Rage was a response to that, but I kind of get the impression, based on how she's built here, and how Serket works kit-wise, I get the impression that Zom here is just builds like this normally, and is just a really high-skill Serket jungler. And shout out to Zom for that. Great gameplay. Ares build, fairly standard. Again, mild situation here. Prophetic Cloak really should be your second item. It's a little harder to stack. It's much longer to stack than Gauntlet of Thebes. Gauntlet of Thebes is really quick, easy assists. Prophetic Cloak is, you gotta get that damage on them. That can be a little bit difficult. Right, yes, it is easier than normal to build stacks on Ares. I will be talking about that because I want to do a few videos on Ares because he's really interesting right now. But yeah, I would have switched the Prophetic Cloak and the Gauntlet here. I'm not a huge fan of Ritual Dagger. I know some people really like to build this just so they can get their blinks off more often. Ares players tend to do this a lot. I don't really like this because it doesn't offer you that many defensive bonuses. There's some health and there's some cooldowns there. That's it. I'm just not the biggest fan of this item. I think you sacrifice too much defensively for this. But that is a personal opinion. Don't take that as gospel. That is my personal opinion, that it is partially a result of my playstyle and how I approach the game. If you're a Ritual Dagger building Ares, that's fine. Just be cognizant of the fact that it is taking away some defensive stats and build accordingly. He does have Glide Shield. I do appreciate that on Ares. Great item on Ares. Underpurchased on Ares. But I'll talk about that in a future video. With the Izanami, other than the bold choice to not build stacks, which, interestingly enough, the Charybdis also didn't, which is a fairly interesting thing because how effective stats are really depends on the hunter, depends on the situation. I notice a lot of hunters, and you can see it here, are building Aussie as their second item because it's got great power, it's got great lifesteal, right? Attack speed boosts. It's a really lovely time for hunters. It has a lot of the stats hunters really want. And they both built that way. Now, the Izanami decided to go for crits. I don't like crits on Izanami as much. Again, personal opinion. Personally, I prefer going with the auto attack pen build, similar to how Charybdis built, but again, personal preference. And the Hera, pretty standard stuff. I just think this was a matter of Serket absolutely dominating and Nuwa really picking up what Serket was laying down. Yeah, the mages build-wise, I have nothing in particular to say about. They're fairly standard, honestly. Yeah, there's nothing particularly there. Nothing particularly in Charybdis either. Izanami's build, again, other than my personal issues with crit build Izanami, again, those are personal. Nothing really to say there. Nah, it's fantastic. Serket's build is absolutely amazing. I love that build on Serket. I just don't normally build that way on Serket. Mostly because I'm way too aggressive with her. I'll talk about that one day in a future Serket video. But anyways, we're back to form here. But a good conversation on Horus and how significant your second item really is in the solo lane, right? And again, remember the context. You have the ability to change your build as you're building it right in the middle of the game, and it's very important that you make sure you respect the circumstances, which is what the Nemesis did not do here, which I talked about, right? But hopefully this is a great example of this, and sorry I've been away for so long, but stuff happens, you know? Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.